She gets 10% commission.
Your setter?
Yeah.
Oh. She's getting 0.5 apps per hour, but you don't close anything, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
right? Then from there, you either make it work or they're like, I can't, you hang up.
Yeah. My name is Giovanna Fonseca. I'm a plant-based nutritionist and fitness coach. I'm literally the first entrepreneur in my family. Never knew how to be an entrepreneur, what an entrepreneur is, what you have to put into it to get there. Just kind of free fell and kind of fallen into it. I'm wearing all the hats of my business. I'm doing all my sales calls. I'm coaching my clients. I'm writing all the nutrition plans, all the fitness plans. I feel like I'm gonna get burned out very, very soon if I don't take it to the next level. I realize why people want to scale, because if you stay at this, money range, I'm gonna be doing everything all the time. So I need to break through something.
How you doing? So nice to
doing
meet you.
good.
Thanks for
You
coming. I heard it was a little bit of a
Oh my
hassle
gosh,
getting here,
yes,
yeah?
I'm so sorry. It was crazy.
Oh, you're good. You don't have to be sorry at all. Do you go by Gia or how do
Gia,
you...
yeah, Gia's
okay,
fine.
cool. So I think from what I've read, you're doing about 20 to 25,000 a month.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing 20 to 25,000 a month. Looks like you just started recently too, which is pretty cool. I think you said you have one setter. Who else do you have?
One setter, one assistant coach.
One coach. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you're doing all the sales calls.
Yeah.
Are you running any ads yet, or?
Yeah, so I have
Okay.
everything's through Instagram right now. I have 2 follow ads
Okay.
saying if you're this and this, give me a follow.
So instead of like a conversion ad, it's just like something.
follow me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So IG follow ad, and then you're messaging everyone off that.
Yeah,
Okay.
whoever follows me, my setter messages them.
You had any issues with that, with like blocks? So like
No.
they start messaging. So how many messages an hour do you know?
A lot.
Or-
I get anywhere, right now I'm spending about $150 a day on that, and I'm getting anywhere from about 200 to 300 new followers a day.
and they hit them all?
She says.
Wow. Let's say you're doing 150 a day, and then you get about 300 followers.
Yeah, first follower ad is just for people who want to eat plant-based vegan.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is for women who are in their 40s to 50s going through menopause. 'Cause
Yep.
My data shows like those women have money. They're at the last half.
Oh
of
yeah,
their life.
like 35 to 50.
Yeah.
I like sit right here. Like when I was running it, because what happened is, I mean, they always have it, almost always. Sometimes they don't, but when you start going below, it's like
Right.
most people who are under 30, they don't have cash.
Yeah.
They just don't.
And they're also not prioritizing their
Okay.
health as much.
Right, exactly. Well, that too, right? Because they're just like, oh, I'm young, whatever. And then all of a sudden, as people get older, they start like, oh,
Right.
Yep. Okay. I don't know how to spell metapause, so we'll just do Facebook, meta, pause, something like that.
And
Okay.
I have about 3 or 4 retargeting ads.
Okay.
2 are videos, 2 are stills, and
Okay.
just saying typically the same thing. If you're plant-based.
How much per day?
All of it together is 150.
Oh, 100 per day,
Yeah.
150 per day. So it's
Yeah.
about 4,000 a month,
Exactly.
right? 4,000 a month. Okay. And then how else are you getting leads?
That's it.
That's it. Okay. So pretty much. So what would you do in a typical day? What do you do?
Typical day, meet with clients, overview all the messages that she's setting out. Sales calls.
Who's they? The setters?
My
And then
setter.
you're doing sales
Yeah.
calls. Okay. So. And like, do you have like a big organic following? Do you not have a big organic following?
It's just coming from these follower ads. I
Okay.
started off at like 6,000 followers about 5 months ago,
Okay.
and now I'm at 27,000.
And you're just doing that? No. Wow. Okay. Do you post any content regularly?
Yeah.
What do you do on that?
I
Okay.
post maybe like
Varies.
2 to 3 reels a week,
Okay.
tops.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. And then what's your goal? Like you're at 20 to 25 grand now. What do you want to get to?
Well, that's not profit, so I want to at
Right.
least get 20.
What's the profit?
And I would say it's about 12K.
Okay, 12K. All right, so let's look at that first. So is that about right? 4,000 on ads?
Yeah.
Okay, so 4,000 a month on ads. How much for your setter?
She gets 10% commission, so.
Your setter?
Yeah.
Oh. 10% just to set the call?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Really?
Well, think about it, because you're doing all the work. Now, I mean, hold on. So, I guess it depends. So she's getting 10%. I mean, if she's setting all the calls, she gets 10% of this, right? Okay, so that's not that crazy, but I want you to understand what you're saying. If I was a setter and I started getting 10%, you're doing 100 grand, that's 10,000 a month. So technically it's okay right now, but what I would recommend you move to is you either do So it's okay now, but the only reason it's okay now is like because your business is small. Something you're gonna experience as an owner as you get a bigger team, and I ran into this, is you'll make promises to people, like, oh yeah, that's fine, like right now, and then it gets bigger, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
You can always go back and say, hey, like, this is the new situation, but it's harder because when you take from people, it usually gets them mad they're gonna leave, right? They don't, like, no one wants to make less, they'll always wanna make more. So what I'd recommend you move to is either hourly, so you do hourly plus bonuses. So bonuses is like calls that close. So like, I'll give you an example. It's gonna range, right? It's gonna range, but typically for fitness, you're gonna do anywhere between like, I'd say like 12 to 16 on the high end. Bonuses will be like, between 25 to like $100 a pop. Okay, that's usually what I do with my team. Or I would take this down to 3% plus a $1,500 base, which is really gonna be about the same thing long term. Because see, long term, you give them a little bit of a base, but then the 3%, if you do the math, 3% of that, what, 10, 12, it's gonna be about, give or take, it's gonna be around about the same.
Yeah.
Right, so you're okay right now. I'm glad to hear that, because I was like, holy shit, because that's like a closer. That's what closers get.
Yeah,
So you can't give setters the same as closers, okay? But since you're the closer, that's okay. So if you start growing, just make sure you're gonna switch it, give her the base, or you can do this. The only reason a base is nice, because then you don't have to track their hourly.
Right.
And then if they're not performing, you're just like, all right, well, I'm gonna fire you. That's the only nice thing about this, because this you have to track. And then your coach, what does your coach get?
She just gets $400 a month. So she's really not coaching one-on-one. She's in the group chat, and she has one coaching call a week with people.
Okay, so you're doing all the coaching.
Yeah.
How many clients, and what does the coaching look like for you?
Nutrition plans, fitness plans,
So you're like doing all of it.
all of it.
How many clients do you have right now?
I have about 20 clients.
Yeah, you
right
can't do
now.
it. Okay,
and,
so-
and they get one-on-one support from myself, where they can text me on through the app, so that
Okay. All right, so and then I'm assuming like, so you're closing, if your program, I saw it was $3,500. So how many deals do you close a month? Like 6-ish or 8-ish?
Yeah.
Okay. You're spending $4K a month, and you're making $25K. So what's the most obvious thing that you think you can do to double the business?
well, the ads.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's literally how you're making all your money.
Yeah.
So if you just went like this, now it doesn't always work this way. Like ads don't go like this, right? They don't just go like this. Sometimes it's like they usually go kind of like this, and then they'll start to taper off at a certain point. So it's more like that. Okay. But if I were you, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spend 8K, and hopefully that's gonna get me close to 50K, and then you're at your goal. I mean, that's all you literally have to do. Now, there's no way you're gonna double it, and she's gonna handle double the workload unless she only has a half workload. So guess what that means? We need another setter. You need to change the base structure and commission. What I would do if I were you is you give them hours to work, because this will be easy for you to manage. Hours to work, give them $1,500 base, 3% of calls that you close, because that will solve your issue. It's gonna be about the same here, but guess what? You don't have to babysit them, and then what you'll do is you'll just be like, hey, you're gonna work 2 to 8, you're gonna work 8 to 2, something like that.
Yeah.
And then they have their KPIs, but all you have to check for KPIs is what? Calls per hour. Here's where you are, here's where you're gonna go, okay? So 4,000, one setter, and then you have like one PT coach, right? It's like part-time, okay? So what we're gonna do is I would move to a $1,500 base plus 3%, okay? I would do it now because she won't notice anything, okay? Now you can go hourly, but the only reason I wouldn't go hourly, it just gives you more bullshit to track, right? So then you have to like, okay, and like how many hours did you work, and was she actually working during that time? You just tell them, it's like, look, if you don't perform, that's it.
Okay.
Now, you still wanna know their hours, and the reason you wanna know their hours is we're looking for at least minimum 0.5 apps per hour. That's the minimum, okay? It should go up. Some of my best messengers are closer to like 1.5, but you wanna have at least this per hour, because if they can't even hit that, they're not usually gonna stay on your team. I'm assuming she's doing okay, because you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
But you need to be looking for this. So if they work 40 hours a week, they should get at least 20 apps. What you're gonna wanna do when you train them is you're gonna wanna check on quality, right? And then obviously speed. So like the two things with messengers that make them better is like, what's the quality of the apps they're pushing through, and then the speed. Because if she gets 0.5 apps per hour, but you don't close anything, it doesn't matter, right? So there's that balance, and you need to let them know that. Like, and part of this, the reason you wanna do this 3% of calls closed is that incentivizes what? It incentivizes what you want. It incentivizes them to only push people through who are good looks, because if they push through bullshit, guess what? They're not gonna get the close.
Yeah.
And you wanna explain that. That's why I'd like to see you switch. This is gonna go to 8K minimum. You're probably, the only thing you have to be careful of, like I said, is usually they put a restriction on how many messages you send. So if that starts becoming the case, this strategy is not gonna work. And you might have to start running like messenger ads, right? So they come in, you're gonna probably have to pay a little bit more, but they come straight into the DMs. This, you need one full-time coach. Okay, you're gonna have to get off that, because if you're gonna double the spend, how many calls do you take per day right now?
Anywhere from 3 to 5.
Is that all you do?
Yeah.
So all you do is 3 to 5, how many days a week? 3 to 5 calls a day?
Yeah, about.
So, okay, so if you're doing 3 to 5 calls a day, you're not closing all of them, obviously. No. Then what's gonna happen is if you go 3 to 5, this is gonna max you out. You're gonna be fully booked out. You can't coach anymore. Yeah. So you're gonna have to either take her to full time, or you gotta get a full-time coach. And you should be out of that anyways.
I know.
So typically you have Indeed or LinkedIn. Now, you can do Indeed, LinkedIn, referrals. But those are usually the 2 best spots, okay? So Indeed, you gotta pay, LinkedIn, you gotta pay, and then obviously referrals, that's like your email list, your followers, whatever. So you'll see sometimes when I do job postings, I do a like story, hey, apply here, type form,
Right.
or we put the type forms on here.
Okay.
Doesn't really matter. Okay. Now, in terms of the type forms, I could show you like some examples, we can do that later, but the biggest things is you wanna ask questions that are obviously gonna weed them out. Now, there's 2 things when you're hiring someone. You have experience, okay, plus skill, okay? Now, in a perfect world, we want both, okay? So a 10, okay? So let's say we get 10 out of 10. You rate them. Where you're at in your business, you're not gonna really get a lot of skill because it's too low in pay, right? Because people who are more experienced, or more skilled, they're gonna want to have, and this isn't even the right word, because that's skill, it's culture, sorry. Okay. So the people who are most skilled, so like think about, for example, like my COO, he makes like grand a year. Why? Because he's really good and I don't have to babysit him. So the other alternatives, I could pay someone half, but then I gotta babysit them, right? And ultimately, as you get more involved in your business, you're gonna enjoy it more when people can do stuff without you having to constantly supervise. Where you're at now, they're not making, like, if I had someone who's making $2,500 a month, my mindset is like, okay, I'm not gonna get a lot of skill, so I need to look for culture. Culture is gonna be like attitude, performance, etc. So when you're doing these applications, questions that I'm gonna ask are gonna be around skill and culture. So that's what we need to do to get to 50K a month. Now, once you do this and you get the coach, the first thing you need to do before you can do this is you need the coach, okay? Because if you start pushing the sales, you're gonna f yourself, because now you got double the sales calls, this coach can't handle it, you're taking it. So first thing I want you to do is you're gonna find a coach. Now, you have 2 ways to pay the coach. You can do salary, okay, plus bonuses, or you do per client plus bonuses, okay? Now, there's pros and cons. Now, typically where you're at in the business, I would do per client because it's safer for the business, okay? As a CEO, you wanna make the business as risk-proof as possible. So the more salaries you have, it actually makes the business less safe, because if you don't make if you don't make enough sales and they have set salaries, guess what? You're So what I would recommend you do is, for now, you do per client plus bonuses. Typically for this, depending, I would usually pay, do you do that right now? Like, how do you pay her?
She just gets, every 2 weeks, I give her $200.
Oh, okay, so yeah, you're in a great position. Okay, so what I would do if you're gonna get a full-time coach, typically the number you have to look for is like, this is usually the lowest, is like $4,000 a month. Is typically like, if someone can't make 50K a year full-time, they're not gonna do it. And if they tell you they can, they're like, oh yeah, I'll be full-time for $3,000. It's like they're lying. Or they live in like India, or like they get paid in rupees, or whatever. So that's not gonna work. So I would look for this number, and then what you do is you either figure out, okay, how many clients do they need to have, right? And then you give them bonuses on re-signs, because typically what's gonna happen is whoever they're working with as a client, you want them to do the re-sign calls or upgrade calls. You don't want a sales rep who comes in and does it because they have no relationship. That's what I've noticed. I feel it's way better when the coach does it. So something else I want you to keep in mind is when you're looking for this coach, is make sure they have sales skills. Okay, it's like, I can't tell you how many times I've kicked myself in the teeth. It's not good enough that they know how to coach. They need to know how to sell. And that goes for pretty much anyone in your organization, because there's always interactions with the client. They're like, what else can you have? What else do I need? And if you give them the upside with the bonuses, it'll help grow your business. Because right now you're getting a lot of re-signs because you're doing all of them. but you're a superstar to them, so it doesn't count, right? It's like if I do a sales call with you versus my team, it's me, right? Because like you have more trust.
Right.
So with this, what I would sell them on as you get with the coach is like, okay, so let's say you're doing 25,000 a month, and let's say, how many clients do you have? 20. Okay, so let's say for example, if you're paying them $100 per client, that's $2,000. So either what you're gonna do is you're gonna pay them, like in this scenario, I'll pay you $100 per client, and we're about to scale, and you show them these numbers. You're like, we're at 4K now, I'm gonna double the ad spend, so we're gonna get double the clients. And so when we're at 40, you're gonna get $4,000 because we're gonna have, on average, 40 clients. Like, pretty common sense, right?
Right.
And then you sell them, hey, and you can make more if you get more re-signs. And then on the re-signs, what I typically do is I'll pay them double. Okay, so for re-signs, I'd give them like $200 per client.
Okay.
That's what I did for a long time. Now, once you get past 100,000 a month, you can redo the structure. Once they get past 5,000, I just turn it to salary. So what I would do if I were you is either $100 per client or maybe like 150. Don't go past that. So I do 100 to 150 per client, okay? And then once this gets past 5,000 salary, you turn it to salary. Because once they're at 50 clients, turn it to salary and that's it. You cap it, you cap the salary, and then they make more on bonuses. And then typically what I've seen, it depends on the person, but I think, you know, they'll be able to handle between like 50 to like 80 clients, something like that. And then, you know, you just have that conversation. Like my brother, he was my first coach and he could handle like 80 clients, but he's kind of a freak like me. So maybe someone else will only do like 60, something like that.
Yeah.
So now you got your new coach and you got your new setters and all that type of stuff. Then it really comes down to management. So what I would do typically is you have like a daily team meeting with everybody. And then you have, and then I don't know how often, but then you have a coach meeting with just your coach, and then you'd have a setters meeting with your setters, right? And that's really all you have. Okay. So daily meeting with everyone, questions, what's up, touch base, like I'm talking 15 minutes, like it's very short. So typically like a daily 15 meeting sesh. And then the coach and the setters will depend on how much you need to do. So what do you think you do on the coaching call? You know, review messages, review upgrade calls, whatever. And like the big thing you're gonna train them on is the upgrades. Like that's the biggest thing. The other thing that you're gonna wanna do when you start with the coach, it sounds like you're already doing it, is you do a 3-way text so you can see all the conversations, okay? What you don't wanna do, do not let them go on their own until you've done this first. The reason is if they f up or they say something stupid or they have a question, they'll text you. You can go in and see it and tell them what to say so they look like the authority. You don't want to be the one in there because as soon as you start responding, guess what the client's gonna do? They're gonna start talking to you. You don't want that. That's why like I say completely out of fulfillment now, because if I get in there, people will start, oh, well, Tanner this, and they go around the coach. Yeah. And they'll start coming to you, you don't want that. So what I did with Benson is I did a 3-way text. He would do stuff. If he up or whatever, I could see it. I would text him privately. And then that way he did it. And then once he got to a good spot, then I came out of the text and he handled it. So eventually, once they've done it enough, you'll move to just recordings. You'll review recordings with them like weekly or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, because remember, you're the superstar. So what typically happens when you get a team is like you're up here and then your team comes in and then you start getting a little less upgrades. You start getting a little more client complaints because they're not you, right? And then the setters, same thing. You're just gonna go over messages and then like KPIs. Okay? And then hopefully if one of your setters is better, you can move them into the manager and maybe you're like, yo, I'll throw you an extra $500 a month to like manage her. And then what you would do at that point is you would only meet with that specific setter. But it's like, I honestly probably would wait till you're bigger. Usually you want about 4 people before you make a manager. So you want about 4 people. So if you had 4 coaches, one's a manager. If you had 4 setters, one's a manager. Okay. That's usually the cadence for scaling the company. Okay, so sales call. So what you're gonna do on the sales call is you're gonna pitch like this. So what happens on the sales call, the problem is now that you have a coach, people are like, oh, I don't want your coach, because they're gonna be talking to you. That's the problem. Now, if you had a different sales rep, it's not a problem, but since you're taking the call, it is a problem. Right. So what you're gonna do on the call is you're gonna give them 2 options, okay? You're gonna say, hey, to work with me, to work with them, okay? So typically your program's $3,500. What you're gonna do is you're gonna pick a price point so fucking high you don't think they'll take it, or you pick a price point where you're like, yo, if they'll pay me that much, I'll fucking coach them.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, my program typically was 3,200. For typically it's 3,200. And so what I usually said is like, I would say it was like 6K to work with me. Like I would like double it. And I kept raising it. I actually had a guy who did take that. So I think I got as high as like 10 grand. But someone was like, yo, I'll pay it. I was like, what the fuck? I was just surprised. But what you do is when you pitch, is because you're the sales rep, this is where this comes in play. On the call, what you'll say is, cool, so the price of the program is, there's two prices. The first price is 6K to work with me. Now the reason it's so expensive, you wanna explain it, because if you don't, it doesn't hit as well. The price of the program is 6K to work with me. Now the reason it's 6K to work with me is I'm the CEO, I gotta manage the team, I gotta work with clients, I gotta run ads, there's a lot of responsibilities on my plate, so I simply can't work with everyone, and so it's a little bit of a higher price point. But as long as you can move forward today, and I like saying as long as you can move forward today, or like you can put some money down, option B is 3,200. Now the only difference between option A and option B is you're gonna work with my coach. Now, the reason that it's cheaper is because that's all my coach does, right? And so because that's all they do, she has more time, she's able to work with more people, and so we're able to lower the price. Now, I want you to understand, I'm still gonna be around. If there's a problem, I'm overseeing things, but that's gonna be your daily communicator, okay? So as long as you can move forward today, it's either 6K with me or 3,200, which sounds better to you? Almost everyone is gonna pick this one. But typically on sales calls, you have intro, pre-frame. I'm only gonna work with you on the important part. Questions, right? So it's like discovery, okay? For me, it's pillars. You could tell me if your structure's different. Overview, so like overview is like, I'm talking very brief. So it's like, if you were gonna work with me for a year, I'd be like, hey, yeah, and just so you know, you're gonna get one-to-one with me, you get this, you get this, you get that, cool. That's it, that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Then the last part is I'm gonna say price drop. So like that's where you actually, hey, it's this much. And then this one is objections, okay? So the issue is if you're not closing as much, it's either usually here, here, or here, okay? So this is like my sales call. Walk me through yours. So if you had to draw it out, like what do you do? So they get on, let's say intro, because that's like hi, then what?
Yeah, hi, and then I ask them why they're on the call. Why did you book this call with me today?
Questions, yeah, okay.
How long has this been going on for, blah, 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 take them down, and then I ask them where they want to be. So in a year from now, what does that look like?
Okay.
Then, then I just...
And you price drop?
Yeah.
Fuck,
Yeah.
that's wild to me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so my guess without listening to your call is you're missing a shitload of sales because, so pillars in a call, okay, so we're gonna go over this and objections, okay? The pillars should really be why they work with you versus someone else. So here's what I usually do. I'm gonna tell you what I do and this can translate to you. Okay, so what I usually did is I did nutrition, I did training, and then I did this here, I said who they could hire, okay? So hear me out. This could still work for you, but I want you to watch what I did. So I did this intro. Pre-frame is kind of the same. It's just like, hey, Gia, welcome to the call. Tell me a little about yourself. Oh, I did this. Awesome. So on the call today, we're gonna figure out what your goal is, what you're struggling with, what you've tried. And then by the end, you just let me know if this is a fit. Awesome, we'll move forward. If you're not, you can take off. Cool? Great. Okay, next, let's go into, so next what I wanna do is questions. So I start asking you questions. You do this part. Then I do the pillars. So I'm like, cool, so Gia, the next thing, so listen to how this sounds. The next thing I wanna do is I'm gonna walk through the 3 pillars, and this is gonna help you understand why people hire me versus hiring anyone else, okay? Now the first one is nutrition. Now watch, the biggest thing is you compare, okay? So like, when you're looking for a boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, the biggest thing you're trying to do is you're comparing, right? Because think of it this way, if a guy asks you out, but he's the same as every other guy, what's the first thing you usually think? You're like, well, I'm not gonna waste my time. He's the same as every other douche.
Right.
You're looking for a guy who's cool. Right. So the same thing here is I compare and contrast. So what I do is I say what they do, what I do. Okay, so watch. Just take this example. All right, so Gia, the first thing is nutrition. Now, what most people do when they give you a nutrition program, Gia, is they give you chicken, broccoli, and rice, right? Now, let me ask you a question, Gia. Why don't you eat chicken, broccoli, and rice every day for the rest of your life if you know it's gonna help you lose weight? Like, and just play along. You're like, because like, I hate it, right? Whatever you're gonna say. Right. Well, then I go, got it, right? Because you hate it and it's really restrictive, right? So on your birthday, Gia, do you eat a chicken, broccoli, and rice cake? Or do you eat a chocolate cake? I eat a chocolate cake, right. So the issue is not about not knowing how to lose weight. You actually do. The issue is you can't stick with it. So how do we do this? What I'm gonna show you how to do, okay, so watch. I just said bad guys, right? See how I pushed them over here? And I'm gonna go, what I do, what I do is I'm gonna teach you how to eat whatever you want without sabotaging results. Now, if you know when I say that, it's actually, I'm not lying, because what I'm gonna do is calorie counting and macros.
Right.
That's true. If they stay within this, you can eat bullshit, right? Yeah. They won't feel as good, but we both know as trainers, it's like, that's it. Yeah. If you don't eat food, you lose weight. Yeah. So then I say, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna teach you how to eat whatever you want, because it's not about cutting out bad food, it's about showing you how to eat bad food and still look amazing, right? Mm-hmm. So all that, all the beers, the Coors Light, the birthday cakes, the Cheetos you're gonna rub all over your shirt, that's what we're gonna show you how to do, okay? So that's number one. So which would you rather do, Gia? Chicken, broccoli, and rice, or cake and ice cream? And they're like, cake and ice cream. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling them closer to me, and I'm like, yo, all these other trainers are fucking idiots.
Yeah.
Okay?
I do that in a sense.
You do?
Thinking about that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna finish on these two, and then we'll move on. But like, if you don't have this in your call, I want you to put this in here, because you'll get more people to close. Like, if you're closing 30% and you're not doing that, you'd close like 50%.
Okay, and that's gonna be after I go through
Questions. Intro,
questions.
pre-frame, questions, pillars. Okay, so the last part is the objections. Now there's 4 objections you can get on a call, okay? Price, spouse, time, right? I need to think about it, or belief. Now the 2 biggest ones you said was price and spouse, so I'm gonna show you how to beat it, okay? And those are pretty common, especially for women, right? Because women, you already know that they're gonna have a spouse. Now, the first thing for spouse objections, we'll start with that, is try to beat it before the call. Yeah. So the first thing is like, have it on your application. Like, have a question that's like, on your application that's like, do you need, husband permission to make this decision? And what I used to do is if they said yes, I would reach out and say, hey, so because you need your husband's permission to make this decision, I'm gonna need him on the call. Oh, he's so busy, don't worry, I'll just tell him. It's like, no, that's literally what I have to do. You have to have him on the call. If they won't, I won't take the call. Yeah. That's up to you, that's your decision. Okay, so the best time to beat the objection is before the objection comes up. So on the pre-frame, I might be like, cool, so the point of this call is to figure out, what your goal is, what you're struggling with, what you've tried. By the end of the call, once you hear everything, I'm gonna be looking for a yes or no decision. Yes means you can move forward, no means you can't. So before I move in, are you in a position where you by yourself can make a decision at the end of the call? And if they're like, oh no, I'm gonna need to talk to my husband, then from there, I'll either reschedule or I'll be like, okay, well, let's do this. If we get to the end of the call and it's a good fit, I'm gonna have you put down a refundable deposit and then you can go talk to him. Are you okay with that? Because then you don't have to deal with it. Yeah. That's up to you, but that's what I'd recommend. But the best place to beat it is where? Here, because once they're on the call, if you get off the call, they're gonna get pissed off. Okay. If you do it here, they might still get pissed off, but it's like, you're not already on the call, they didn't schedule yet, whatever. Yeah. Now, the price one is actually the easiest one. I love price because it's the easiest objection to handle. And a lot of people, that's like the go-to for most people, but it's funny because it's the easiest one to beat. So price, here's how you do it. I'm gonna write the framework on the board. Okay. And then I'm gonna walk you through it, and as I walk you through it, I'm gonna point to where I'm at, and you're gonna laugh because it's really easy. Okay? Yep. All right, tie down, double tie down. Okay. Boom. Close. Okay? So Gia, the price of the program is $1 million. What do you think?
Too expensive.
Gia, I totally get it. I agree with you. Let me ask you this though. Is there anything besides price that would stop you from moving forward today, or is it literally just the price?
Just the price.
Just the price, first tie down. Got it, second tie down. So if we're able to figure price out, you're good to move forward today. Is that accurate? That's all you, okay, got it. So let me ask you this. So I forgot one thing here. Cash on hand. Okay, all right, so Gia, what I need to know today to best help you, because here, again, I'm here to help you. I'm not gonna force you into anything. What's your cash on hand situation look like? So credit card, savings, bank account, crypto, Ethereum, whatever. What do you have on hand that you could use to invest towards this program today?
About $2,000.
$2,000, cool. Okay, so here's what you do from here. Let me use a more realistic number so it makes sense. Okay, so Gia's program, everyone, is $3,500. So here's what you do. For $2,000, now, $2,000 is enough for a payment plan, right? Your program is $3,500, okay? You handle it however you want, and I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna handle it. So your program's $3,500, so that's enough for a payment plan. So if it's enough, I go, got it. So Gia, that's actually perfect because in this situation, that's enough to get started. Let's go ahead and put that down. We'll do the rest on the payment plan. Does that sound fair enough?
Yeah.
Okay, if you say yes, I take it. Let's say you say no. Gia, that's enough for a payment plan. Let's go ahead and put that down. We'll do the rest on, the 2K down. We'll do the rest on the payment plan. Sound fair enough?
No.
Okay, so here's where most people f up. What do most people do here?
They just stop.
Or they go, well, oh, okay, well, what about 1,500? What about 1,000? What about, it's like the guy who's like desperate for your date, right? You say no, and he's like, please, Gia. And you're just like, dude, like, what the hell, right? So let's say in this situation, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pivot, okay? So what I say, so I don't sound like a used car salesman, I go, Gia, no worries. I totally get it. Let me ask you, what's the most ideal situation for you? So you know that the program is usually $3,500. I know you got 2K cash. I don't want you to be homeless. What's the most ideal situation for you to move forward? What would you like to see happen? Because I'm just here to help. So if you tell me, I'll try to make it work for you.
Maybe like 500 down today.
Okay, boom. So now you're the closer. You decide, is 500 down on a payment plan enough, or are you like, no, fuck that? So in your program, would you take 500 down or no? Okay, what's the lowest you'll take?
1,500.
Okay, so here's what I would say. Okay, Gia, thanks for sharing that with me. I appreciate it. I can't do that number. That's just too low. The lowest I can go is about 1,500. Is there anything we can do to make that work for you so that you can come in? Because again, I just want to help and I want to see you in the program. Then from there, you either make it work or they're like, I can't, you hang up.
Yeah.
Now here's what I'd recommend for you. This is your call, but this is what I'd recommend for you. And this is what I did in my fitness program. Right now, you're the coach. That's also part of your bottleneck because since you're the coach, you don't want to take less than 1,500 down because you got to do all the work.
Right.
So once you get a coach, guess what? You don't have to do any of the work.
Yeah.
So here's what I'd recommend for you. My program was $3,200 for 4 months. Okay? I was gonna tell you to go to 4 months, but because you're getting so many re-signs, I don't think you should. I just think you should leave it. Okay. If you start getting less re-signs, make your front end program a month longer. You'll get more cash on the front end. And if you're not getting re-signs, it won't matter as much because you're getting an extra month of cash. Right now, I'd leave it. Okay. So what I would do is my program was 4 months. Now, this is a personal call. Now, remember we went to the coaches earlier? My coach is $100. So if I take on a client and I only get $100 a month, it's a wash. So it's pointless. So my lowest I would take, the lowest I would take, and the reason I did this is in B2C, if someone makes 50 grand a year, you can be the best closer on earth. They still make 50 grand a year. Right. So if you say 1,500 down, for some people that's too much. So like, dude, like that's a lot for some people, right? If they make 50 grand a year, like 500 down is a lot. So you have to have that number in your head of what you're gonna do when you have a coach. For now, I think you stick with that. When you get a coach, you can let more people in because guess what? You don't have to service them. They do. Yeah. Who cares? Yeah. So what I did is I made a rule for my closers and myself that it was at least 200 a month. Why? Because if it's 200 a month, after the 100, I still make $100 profit. That guess where I put that? Ads. And guess what? For $100, you probably get 20 new leads. And guess what? One of those leads will pay you 3,500 down, 1,500 down. Yeah. So the bad leads pay for ads. Think of it that way. Okay, now that's your decision. I would do 200 down, and what I would say is, cool, so Gia, what I'll do is the lowest I can go is 200 down. But what I'm gonna do is you put that down, we'll put you on a payment plan, and then I'd be like, you just gotta promise you're gonna work hard, you're not gonna tell any of my clients I give you a discount. Because like, I really don't want them to say that to the clients because it's bad. Right. But what would happen is they usually would be like, so if it was $3,200, it'd be like a 16-month payment plan. Now, if they fall off, whatever, I don't care. The point is that if I can get $800 over 4 months minimum, let's say they cancel right after that, that's $800 into ads, which for you would probably get you an extra like 200 leads, give or take. Yeah. And that's where my head goes. So right now, part of the reason you're probably also closing 30%, which is actually better now that I know this, is you're not being flexible. I wouldn't be flexible now, but as soon as you get a coach, I would, because guess what? Pays the coach, keeps the coach happy, and then you get extra money for ads. Yeah. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But if we go back to this and I say, what's your cash on hand? And we already did it. If it works, I go for that as a payment plan. If it doesn't work, I say, what's your ideal situation? And that's it. What most closers do is so obnoxious. And they're like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? And then they basically get put in a corner where they're obnoxious and the person gets pissed off. And so they don't want to move forward because they sound desperate, right? You don't want to sound desperate. Right. Do you have any questions on this? But every call, it's $3,500. That's too much. Totally get it. Is there anything besides price? No, it's just price. Got it. So if we figure price out, you're in? Yeah. What's your cash on hand?
Okay.
That's what you need to do every time. Now, let's say we got down to that, and I'm like, all right, Gia, what's your ideal situation? And you're like, well, could I do 1,500 down? And it works. I'm like, sure, let's do that. And you're like, I still got to think about it. Guess what? Well, I just isolated it, so now you're full of shit. So guess what that means? It's probably belief, okay? So when I go to belief, can I erase it?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I go to belief, my favorite way to do it, they're switching it, right? And so again, when you push them into a corner, if you have a framework, if they're still not paying you, then they're lying, right? Or they're scared. So what I like to do with belief is I just say this, Gia, what's the worst thing you can imagine happening? She's like, you're like, well, it's not, I don't know if it's gonna work. Cause like I've paid for programs and And you're like, cool. So I'm gonna ask you 3 questions, okay? So the first thing, there's only 3 options that can happen, Gia. First thing is you do it and it works, right? And that's what you want, right? Okay? Now, if someone has a refund clause, the second thing I'll say is you do it and you get a refund. Okay, now you don't have that, so you're gonna need to come up with something else, right? You don't do it and stay stuck. All these options are risk-free, but the only option that guarantees you stay stuck is you don't do anything about it, right? So it's completely up to you, but there is actually no risk if you go ahead and move forward today. Do you wanna go ahead and move forward and guarantee you'll get to your goal or keep your money, or do you wanna stay stuck? And they're usually like, oh, like that makes sense, I'll move forward. Because they're usually not thinking. Right. It's like, it's not logical. Right. Now the next one's an ideology one. It's like identity, okay? So I call this the Sephora story, okay? I'm not gonna go into why I call it the Sephora story, but it's basically like this. It just goes, so Gia, the thing here is you're saying that you wanna be healthier, happier, etc. But the thing is that most people who are healthier, happier, etc., they invest in themselves, right? So do you wanna be like the people before you who've actually hit the goal that you want, or do you wanna stay where you're at and invest, another $200 into perfume or makeup that's gonna guarantee you stay stuck? Right. That's not exactly how it's said. I usually have I'll have a script and I kind of like, it sounds a lot better when I write it. But the whole point here is you're saying, hey, look, if you said you wanna be healthier, happier, sexier, whatever, and the thing is that people who are like that, they invest in themselves. They invest in coaching, they invest in courses, they invest in diets, right? So would you rather do that where you are like the people before you who are where you wanna be, or do you wanna be like everyone else that goes and buys more perfume and makeup and Louis Vuitton bags and stay stuck? Because I don't think an extra $200 in a purse is gonna make much of a difference versus you invest this in yourself. Yeah. It's more of an identity play where it's like, who do you wanna be? Right. This one is like more logical. All right, so boosted posts. Right. Which ones are the boosted posts?
Down, it's lose the weight right there, weight top.
Okay. Counts reach, ad plays, messaging, organic, Instagram, that's all good. Okay, so you see what you did? Automatic, don't do automatic. That's your fault. So what you could have done, so like watch, I'll take you through one. So like let's say, I'm not gonna do it for you, but like, okay, so let's say you're gonna boost this one. Okay. So what you'll do is you're gonna boost the post like this. You go here, and so you see with this one, more messages. What you did is you did more website visits. That to me is more of, or profile visits. That's the traffic. This one is the messages, okay? Traffic, messages, traffic, messages, okay? Like what I would recommend is if your setter is getting more sets from people messaging you, do that. Let's say I do more messages, it doesn't matter. You see it says automatic, you gotta create your own. Look at this, boom. You see that? So that's gonna fix your problem right away because you're gonna go like this. You're gonna go to female. Locations, USA. So that's what I want you to do on the next one. Don't do automatic. Okay. I mean, automatic's fine, like it's working because it says Instagram targets people like your followers, but the thing about your own is when you create your own, what you can do is you can change that and then you can just change the location and then you can choose interests and then, you can be like,
I get a lot of people from California. Like
you see veganism? So I'd be like veganism, whatever. Yeah. What she's basically doing is she has boosted posts, okay? And she did these from Instagram. So what you want to make sure she does moving forward is either she does it in the way I just showed, or she does it from the ads manager because she did it from Instagram, she can't actually edit in here. And then she didn't make it's not a mistake, but she didn't hit her followers effectively. So what I would do is like either do it from the ads manager so you can choose like age ranges and interests, or you just do it how I showed you guys earlier. Because what she did on this is she did automatic, she chose the automatic ad set setting. So she didn't have any control over who it was targeting. So yeah, again, this one here is a messages campaign. This one here is the traffic. So if they're both working, what I would do is like if they're both working, do one more of each. If they're not, and one of them's working better, do 2 more of that one or something.
Okay.
And then this one is obviously just your retargeting.
Yeah.
So the cool news is you're probably getting the best cost you can get right now because you're not doing cold traffic. And yeah, I mean that's really it. I mean that. Do you have other questions?
No. I got everything.
Y'all questioned
My
out?
brain is, yeah,
It's fried. Okay.
it's fried. Thank you.
Yeah, of
so
course.
much
I'm so
for
glad you
everything.
came.
What just happened?
Just gave me definitely a clear vision of my next steps. I felt like I was at a point where I didn't know how to proceed, and I don't like that. I like knowing what I need to do. So this really gave me some insight on what I need to do next for my business.